Hello and welcome YouTube, this is Cookie Monster of ProForgeRacing, bringing you the results and highlights of the 6th official Dirty Racing League tournament. Again, I'm way behind on this one, I apologize, just moved back home, got settled in, didn't have internet for a few days. But this will be the last video I record that's not in high definition, because this is the last video I had made before I got my new capture card, so that's awesome. All my videos now will be in HD. But anyways, this first map here is Hectic Hell by Nuked Ice Cream, which we have used before in previous Dirty Racing League tournaments. But you know, the maps that seem the most successful for Dirty Racing are the ones that you'll see again. Right here, Killer Bane ends up passing Jonaside, and he ends up slamming him into a wall and allows the Zakito to pass him. And right here, I try my hardest to wreck Killer Bane. I fail and end up messing myself up, pretty much. Right here, Bean, Jake, and WGTR Cookie all fail kind of at the same time on the same turn, which is, you know, triple fail. Right here, Whiskey and Jonaside are going at it, and Jonaside took Whiskey down and flipped him right into a wall. And then right here, I drive directly at Whiskey and the Zakito into a wall, and I pass both of them, and I caused Jake to lap someone. But the positions for this one were Jake Bobius in first, Bean, D-Mage, Passante, Killer Bane, Whiskey Worm, Cookie Monster, the Zakito, WGTR Cookie, who I'll refer to as WGTR, and then XX Jonaside XX in 10th. Obviously, those are the 10 racers who participated in the 6th DRL tournament. We've actually already done the 8th tournament by the time I'm recording this. I'm just so far behind, I apologize for that, but they will all come out eventually. But, yeah, that was a really good race. Hectic Hell is always a lot of fun, as well as this map, which has also been used several times before, Gromulan SX by X-Rains. This is probably one of the best Supercross tracks raced for the DRL so far. It's easy enough to do, and there's plenty of tight, U-turn type turns that we can wreck each other on. So this is always a great race, and it always allows for a lot of dirty racing. You know, sharp U-turns where someone, is trying to turn and someone goes straight, knocks them right out. But right there, Bean failed the jump, and that caused D-Mage to flip, and he lost 4 positions because of it. And right there's the 4th. Right here, D-Mage, again, tries to take Killer Bane off the edge, and then I come in and take myself off the edge right behind him. And then right here, I wreck the Zakito into a wall, and then Jonaside comes, and he helps knock the Zakito off the track, and then he tries to pass Cookie, but flips himself on the next berm. So that was just kind of hectic right there. This was on lap 9. WGTR and Whiskey are battling it out for first, and Whiskey gets ahead of WGTR barely because WGTR messes up, so that means, at the end of the race. And on lap 10 right here, after falling into second, WGTR, he was threatened by Jake, but he quickly does something about it, and he threw Jake off the track there with a nice tail whip, which kind of guaranteed his second place for that race. The positions were Whiskey Worm in first, then WGTR, Jake Bobius, D-Mage, Bean, Cookie Monster, the Zakito, Killer Bane, Jonaside, and Passante. Passante got 10th because he lagged out. We should have just restarted and invited him, but we had already kind of finished a lap by the time. We didn't want to be unfair, to those who were, in the lead after an entire lap. We didn't want to restart it because it was only then that Bean got an invite from Passante, and then we realized he was gone. And Whiskey ended up waiting for about a minute at the end for Jonaside there between first and last place. This one is Snowy Trails by Cookie Monster myself. This has also been used before. This was kind of like a tournament where I threw in like the best DRL maps out there. Right there, Jake and Bean kind of both fail, and then I come by and hit Bean, and he goes sideways and ends up tail whipping Cookie, and that caused Cookie to flip out into the wall, or WGTR. Right here, D-Mage and Jonaside are side by side, and Jonaside goes into the wall, and that was at the same time that I failed the jump, and D-Mage failed the jump too. And right there, Zakito and Cookie are next to each other, and Zakito flips and allows Killer Bane to catch up. And by Cookie, I meant WGTR. The positions for this one were Whiskey Worm, Jake Bobius, Cookie Monster, Passante, Bean, D-Mage, WGTR Cookie, Killer Bane, the Zakito, and Jonaside in 10th. For those of you who have never raced with us, and if you notice that Whiskey Worm is always, he always comes in first in the races and the tournaments, yes, he's won 7 tournaments out of 14 so far, which is really, really impressive. He's an incredible racer, and we all have a tough time keeping up with him. But anyways, this next map here is Cooling Station by D-Mage. This is a really unique looking map. It actually worked very, very well for the DRL. It's easy to wreck yourself on it. It's easy to wreck others and catch up to them. So this was a very fun map for the Dirty Racing League. We'll definitely use this one a lot. But D-Mage asked me to take a look at his new map, consider it for a tournament, and you know, I definitely agree that it should be in one. But right here, Passante was my rival, and he wrecked me into the wall when I tried to pass him, and that allowed Bean to pass me. And right there, Bean kind of falls off his mongoose and is pushed farther behind by Passante. And then right here, I get Passante back because I slammed him into the wall and passed him. And then this is one of the dirtiest highlights yet that I've seen. Whiskey Worm takes the jump at an angle and dodges me and Bean, but he annihilates Passante and flipped him and put him way back. And then right here, Bean kind of tried to pass me, but I put him into a wall, and that allowed the Zakito to pass. Right here, Whiskey's a maniac again, and he jumps at an angle, and he landed on top of Killer Bane. And then towards the end of the race, Passante and the Zakito are side by side, and Passante takes the Zakito out and flipped him, which was pretty funny. Sorry, I think I missed one of the highlights in there that showed. I just didn't read it. But the positions for this one were Jake Bobius in first, D-Mage, Bean, Cookie Monster, Passante, Whiskey Worm, the Zakito, Killer Bane, Jonaside, and WGTR Cookie. Yes, Whiskey Worm got a 6th place, which was, you know, perhaps his all-time low in the DRL. I'm not positive, but I think so. So, ha 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 ha, Whiskey. No, that was a really good race, though. That was a whole lot of fun. It was pretty cool battling it out in the middle, because it was like me, Bean, and Passante, who were all kind of like in the middle, and we kept battling it out. I'd pass Bean, and then he'd pass me, and then he and Passante would both pass me. It was just like back and forth. It was pretty fun. I definitely like this map a lot because it's really unique. You know, it kind of uses sky sections, but it's not a sky track, so it's a lot different. But this map here is Jotunheim by Jeff H3962. This map is definitely a really good DRL map. This is the best highlight ever in the DRL, and it came right here on lap 1. Watch this. 7 people failed the jump right there because of a pile-up that Cookie started. WGTR flipped himself, and that caused everyone to pile up and fail to jump, except for Jonaside, Whiskey, and Cookie. And it caused Jake, D-Mage, and WGTR all to die, as opposed to just failing. So 3 people died, 4 people failed, and only 3 of us lived. So that was hilarious. Right here, Jake fails the jump, and D-Mage tries to pass him, but wrecks into a wall. But he wrecks himself, and that allowed Jake to pass. So the 2 of them were kind of going back and forth. Right here, me and Cookie are side by side, but he ends up messing himself up, which allows me to lap him. And in the same spot, Jake Bobius is side by side with D-Mage, and Jake wrecks D-Mage into a tree and causes him to flip and allows Jonaside to pass him. Right here, D-Mage fails the jump, and Passante hits him and does a wheelie off him. So that was kind of cool. And again with D-Mage, he lands on Jonaside. He flips and gets passed by Bean and Passante. Then Passante takes Bean into a wall and flips him, allowing D-Mage to pass him. Right there, Jonaside and Passante both fail to jump, but that allows D-Mage and Bean to pass them. And then right here, Jonaside, one of the 3 people who didn't fail to jump on the first lap, ends up failing it, and he falls way far behind because of it and falls way back to like 8th place or so. But Killer Bane right here hits the wall and spins, but then Whiskey, who laps him, kind of hit him and caused him to do a complete like spin. It was pretty cool, actually. I don't know if you could see it. But Whiskey ends up finishing in first, and then Cookie Monster, Jake Bobius, Passante, Bean, the Zakito, Killer Bane, D-Mage, Jonaside, and WGTR. If you remember, the last time we used this map in a tournament, I ended up getting first, and Whiskey Worm got second. So this time he beat me, and I got second. So that was kind of funny. But Whiskey ended up finishing about 1.5 minutes before last place, which was Jonaside and WGTR. And D-Mage ended up thinking he had to do an extra lap, and he kept racing, but he was actually done. So that was kind of funny. But that was a chaotic race. You know, Whiskey and I were about a half a lap or a lap ahead of every single other person in the entire tournament, so that was nuts. Right there at the very beginning of this map, Complexity by Orion Hardy 84, I got pushed into a man cannon that launched me way up and kind of messed me up right from the start. But this was a pretty chaotic race. There was an issue with the map because you could kind of bump right before the checkpoint, but he changed the whole ending section. Now there's a little man cannon jump and you land much smoother before the checkpoint. Right here, WGTR kind of knocks me into the man cannon at the very beginning. Right there, Bean flipped off Killer Bane and lost 2 positions. Right here, I'm right behind the Zakito and Whiskey, and I try to take Whiskey out, but I fly through the barrier and die, which guarantees my 10th place practically. D-Mage right here pushes Jonaside to the higher up section, and which didn't really affect him, but it was just kind of a cool shove. And right there, Passante gets very intimate with Jonaside and rides on top of him for several seconds, so that was kind of funny. The Zakito flips himself, and Whiskey pushes him and sends him flying right there, which was hilarious. And then Jake tries to pass Bean, but Bean won't have it and tail whip Jake into a wall right there. And at the ending, Whiskey ends up waiting for about 20 seconds for me to finish, but WGTR, who was behind me somehow, still had a lap to do. But the positions were Whiskey Worm, Bean05, Jake Bobius, Passante, D-Mage, Killer Bane, the Zakito, Jonaside, Cookie Monster, and WGTR Cookie. And I guess WGTR did a perfect barrel roll as he started his final lap. I don't know if we already saw that or if that's coming up. I didn't really clarify that to myself in my little highlights topic. I think it's right there. Yeah, at some point. At some point he did a perfect barrel roll, which is pretty cool. He was going to start his his final lap, and he kind of like caught a little part of the natural map and like did a perfect little barrel roll. It looked really cool. I don't know if you guys saw it yet. I can't remember when exactly it was, but it was like right around this time. But anyways, this was a good race. Obviously there was an issue at the end. There was these tin cups right before the end, and they were just they weren't smooth, so you could bump, and sometimes you would flip through the checkpoint and you wouldn't get a point. I think it happened to Bean once or twice and a few other racers, so he changed the ending and added a little man cannon jump, so it's like a slower paced and more gentle ending, but it definitely was cool. I think right there's the barrel roll. Yeah, right there's the perfect barrel roll. I knew it was towards the end here somewhere. I didn't know if I had missed it or if it was yet to come. But the final results for this one were Jake Bobius in first. He actually beat Whiskey, and Whiskey got second, Bean in third, D-Mage in fourth, Cookie Monster tied in fifth with my rival Passante, and then Killer Bane in seventh, the Zakito in eighth, WGTR Cookie in ninth, and Jonaside in 10th. I know I wrote Passante was in sixth. I normally just go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I didn't even think about the fact that it was a tie, so we both got 5th. Passante didn't get 6th. And that's funny that I tied him because he's my rival. But if you want to get into these tournaments, go to halotracks.org, HT Squads, HT Dirty Racing League. Go to our members list, sign up there, and then at the top of the HT Dirty Racing League forum, there's open tournaments. Find our most recent tournaments there. But thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope to see some new racers next week. Thank you guys.